She doesn't make
Wi-Fi with 40.
Hi, welcome everyone. This is Shanti here from Embodiment Unlimited. Sorry for the slight delay there. We lost Wi-Fi connection and I had to scramble to get another working device. But we're back on now and we're going to get the session started. Thanks again for your patience. For those of you who are watching the replay, you don't have to fast forward because we're going to be starting as soon as I let folks in from the waiting room, all right? Okay. Hi there, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. My deepest apologies for the delay. We had a little bit of a Wi-Fi issue and I had to switch devices. So back on track now, hopefully. And we've got a really good session coming up for you here. It's going to be on how not to use yoga and meditation as an emotional bypass.
No, I got the wrong one.
Yep. Just gonna turn off. Everyone can just mute themselves. The session is going to be once again on how to not use yoga and meditation as an emotional bypass, and it's going to be by our very own Mark Walsh, Mr. Embodiment, and Ilan Stefani. If you'll just give me a moment, I'm going to start the recording for us now, and then we can get the watch party. I'm going to share the screen and we'll get the watch party going without further ado, okay? All right.
So here, some more.
So hi there, we're just going to start the session now. Shanti here again from the Embodiment Unlimited hosting team. Welcome to our penultimate session of the day on how not to use yoga and meditation as an emotional bypass with Mark Walsh and Ilan Stefani. We're going to do a watch party for this session. And we welcome any comments or questions that you have from the chat so that we can talk about it as a community. I'm going to drop some links for you in the chat for the Trauma is Your Superpower, as well as the Everyday Embodiment course. We have had a little bit of a technical delay, so I'm going to actually get the streaming started right now, and we'll talk a little bit more about the course after it's over. So just give me 1 second here. I'm just going to go ahead and share screen here with you. The video. Okay. Let me know in the chat if
welcome to this next bite-sized session with Mark and
how
Ilan.
the sound
Double
is for
trouble,
all
what
of
a
you.
treat.
Okay?
This one is on spiritual bypassing. So if you're not,
Let's bypass.
So okay, quick one. So what is it? The very basic version before we do the safety stuff. So how we can use practices to not, like meditation, yoga, conscious dance, etc., rather than to connect with ourselves, but to not feel, to disconnect. This is crazy common, and there's some signs that it's happening and some ways to avoid it. People often see other trauma patterns far more easily than this one because it can look sort of positive and nice. Before we get into that, the normal safety stuff. So this one is recorded. So you're this is past Mark and Ilan for a week ago. You're watching this now, and there's a few people that we invited early just to have an audience. So you won't be able to join this Zoom call, but a lot of the others are live. And we always ask people to check in with themselves before a session. Like, is it a good time for a 30-minute, speedy, jokey, probably offend you slightly, download on spiritual bypassing, or maybe I should watch it later. Just check in with yourself for a moment that it's, you know, good self-care to watch this now. Take a breath. Things can come up in any of these trauma sessions. We always recommend people move, watch them with friends if you can, be outside, walking along. You don't need to look at our pretty faces. You know, you can just listen to it. And, you know, if you've had enough of the Zoom, some people will be better served by that one-to-one therapeutic work rather than the kind of educational work that we're doing here. Often we're kind of aiming our sessions at people who are either quite healed or have had relatively low-level trauma. Yeah, if you're in full-blown PTSD, you might not be better. You might be better off actually getting one-to-one support in person. Yeah. What else? Don't binge watch all these sessions at once. I think they're the main safety things we say. So Ilan, I think it's time to get ultra spiritual, as JP would say.
Oh, wave of love and light, so much gratitude and peace. Woohoo! Yay! I mean, I have to admit, it's one of the sweetest addictions on earth. Just, being perfect around my karma and being so conscious. So while my automatic behavior and the dark forces in my dark soul, they are driven from something bad inside. And then I'm praying, sending good orgasmic vibes to the other part of the globe, which is suffering, but I'm so not suffering. I'm dancing at the beach. This is so seductive.
Oh and my God, if you're going to be the sarcastic one, I have to be the sensible one. I'm normally the sarcastic one. So I think like I'll be the straight cop today. This is not going to be a familiar role, but okay, let's start with something before everyone gets offended that we've kicked their puppy. Okay. So I like yoga, meditation, conscious dance, all that hippie shit. I love it. Okay, I meditated today with Steve. True story, Steve. We meditate every morning, usually at my house, but I'm in Moscow today, so online today. I do yoga pretty regularly. I conscious dance every chance I can get. I love it. These are great practices, really good for getting back in our bodies, for helping us regulate stuff from trauma. Can be very, very good practices. Though, you know, do look at David Javellin's session on trauma-sensitive mindfulness. Yoga can be more or less trauma sensitive. However, as Ilan, I think, has pointed to here, they could be, I won't say misused, right? Because if someone's like deep in the emotional, physical pain of trauma, going up with the angels could seem very attractive, right?
And it can provide at least one realm of safety and of beauty in a world that is full of destruction. I think there is something critical when it comes to a stagnation that doesn't lead to more development or peace or softness with myself, but a strict rigidity or even dependency of I wouldn't get along without this or that. And another huge trap that I see around bypassing is the scene. It's not the individual one doing yoga or meditation. It is the scene around that sooner or later can replace the essence of the method. It's almost like the method itself is emptied out and the function is I belong to the good ones because I so deeply think subconsciously that I'm a bad one that doesn't deserve a good life. I'm addicted to having this ticket to the good ones. So I think this is a huge risk if you are just meditating in groups or doing yoga in groups in big cities that have this large spiritual scene. For example, Berlin, I think that's the global capital.
Ilan, are you a little bit traumatized by the bypassing in Berlin? I think Brighton in England, where I live, also has a claim, though Boulder has a claim, and San Francisco. San Francisco is the spiritual home of fake spirituality, obviously. So, you know, the scene, there's a few, but let's take a step back. So I really want to, my sense is you might have been a bit bruised by this, and I have at times, you know, and it does serve a function for people though, right? Like we always have this thing of addictive behaviors, ways of trauma patterns are actually kind in a funny kind of way. Like if you're in the body and it's awful and you feel overwhelmed and unsafe, you know, this is the definition of trauma. Okay, then to be in the spiritual realm, transcending all that, or with the special spiritual people who are saved, as you say, the spiritual group, right? The people who are better than others. You know, I'm part of this saved group now. Oh, you're not a yogi, really? Oh, you poor. They'd say in Harry Potter, a muggle. Yeah, someone who doesn't do magic is called a muggle in Harry Potter. Like that is a great place of safety for a lot of people, right? When I first got into the sort of meditation scene, kind of 20 years ago or something, I noticed there was quite a lot of fairly damaged people around, and I was one of them. And I thought, well, maybe that's not a coincidence. They want to sort of get away from the pain of the world. And, before we're horribly sarcastic, which I do want to do in depth, I feel like also want to acknowledge the sort of the wisdom of that, trying to get away from it. Does that make sense?
It's a sense of home. I belong to a safe space where I can orient myself in, and I have some kind of power over my life. So I now am a yogini, or I now am into meditation. And I think when we combine especially meditation or especially mindfulness techniques with embodiment, we have so much more support in really checking in. Is this making me, I could say, is this helping me becoming a more holistic person, or is it another layer that's just kind of shallow or repetition? Because I think normally for example, when I would just straight on sit down, close my eyes, calm down, stop thinking, it wouldn't work at all. And if it works on costs of my nervous system or on costs of my energy level, because I kind of freeze all the subconscious stress levels that are still running in the background of my nervous system. And then I'm in this very shallow, thin line of silence, which is kind of suppressing the loudness in my nervous system instead of true or blissful or peaceful inner silence that just opens up. So, for example, what works for me is not a rigid kind of mindfulness or technique, but a kind of loose dancing, shaking, wow, allowing that my day has been messy up to now, for example. And from there, dropping into something that's more peaceful, more silent, or more meditative. So I think this is something that really, really can help, that you combine in order to make the nourishment of yogic and of meditative secrets available to your whole nervous system, and also to the wounded parts. Because otherwise, I think everything that is also a fashion can also lead to you hiding even more the dark stuff or what you feel ashamed for. So, for example, it's not an option that all of us have to live as a vegan in order to feel good or full of love and light or whatsoever. So there is something around, it's not a social code. It's a fluid setup of tools that can assist you in your unique healing. And the unique healing is always something else than just repeating the same sun salutation that everybody else does as well, or something like that. It's about a common technique for unfolding a uniqueness, to put it into these words. And I think in that way, it has to change. It has to be allowed to change if it wants to change as a daily practice.
Thank you, Ilan. Ilan alluded to a few things that I'd like to underline. So, one element you'll see is a kind of rigidity in some practices. Like, I do the same Ashtanga sequence every morning. Or in the martial arts, which was my first sort of spiritual practice, Aikido, there can be a rigidity in that, which actually felt very safe for me at first. This hierarchy, everyone's in lines, people bow to each other, these kind of rigid hierarchical places. Like, think about what a yoga class is actually, right? It's a place you can go where you get told exactly what to do. You get told how to sit, how to breathe. You don't have to say anything. You just have to do exactly what you're told. Now, outside of the constraints of kink, that's a pretty unusual situation. Like, yoga's kink as hell, right? Like the idea of like that. So if you're someone that wants to relinquish control or came to a situation where you felt you had no control, there's maybe an interaction there. And as someone who I was like this Irish rebel, wild alcoholic, but the martial arts, Japanese martial arts, particularly everything in straight lines, everything rigid. And that can create a rigidity in oneself. Other thing Ilan alluded to there, which I really liked, was this idea of the spiritual identity. Like, I am an Aikidoka, Everyone else isn't. I'm a yogi, you're not. I'm a vegan, I'm better than you. And you can be a vegan just because you want to be a vegan, but for some vegans, it's an identity. And the same with any other diet or practice, paleo, whatever. So let's not always pick on the vegans, though it is fun. So this idea of a spiritual identity can create a kind of inauthentic self. Does that make sense? So it's like my trauma's over there with the other self, and I'm going to plaster on, maybe a fake spiritual voice over here. And I never get angry. I'm above anger. And, anyone know these fake voices? Like, why are you making so much eye contact? Stop it. It's weird. That it creates a fake self, which is sort of pushing this other one, as Ilan said, the dark side or trauma history. And many spiritual traditions actually have this element. They'll say the body's just a piece of meat that your spirit is in, or something like that. Or the body's, this part of Christianity, this part of Theravada Buddhism. There are elements of many religions that have this antibody transcendent element.
The disembodiment as a kind of fundamental teaching. So I think what a fruitful conversation or meeting when I use those traditions, but at the same time, I incarnate. I really allow my embodiment to lead the way. So I think that's a very modern and a very healing approach for the modern age.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. In some languages like Spanish and Italian, embodiment is actually a kind of a religious word, the incarnation. And it's because there's also the other tradition, there's ascending and descending, they call them traditions in many spiritual practices. And I like Ken Wilber's thing, which is include and transcend. So for me, when people have the trauma, it's like, do I really want to include that bit? Can I just transcend without including it? That's the bypass. Yeah, the awkward emotion, the awkward part in the body. And that can feel good, but causes problems, right? So inauthenticity, things coming out sideways in weird ways. Catholic Church, I'm looking at you. Okay. Anything else, Ilan, that you see that this bypassing? Why not bypass?
Why not bypass? I think all of us are using maybe everything from time to time in order to bypass something else. So it's not about I have to be the bad cop against myself and I have to observe myself and judge myself. I also want to point out what you mentioned, Mark, around when I do exactly what I'm told or when I'm following exactly this tradition and just believing into this scene or tradition or direction or whatever, then I get somewhere tomorrow. I think that's a common trap, that we kind of work for our healing, work for our karma, work for our future, but the future is never today. So embodiment is all about the here and now in an unconditional way. So this unconditional way, or this unconditional essence of also meditation and yoga, etc., has to be revealed for you in the very moment. It's not so much about following a protocol that somebody else knows is good for you. Always check in with your nervous system. And I think this is such a trustworthy reality check. Does it work for me when I follow it for 3 weeks, for 3 months, or for 3 days? Or have I a kind of instinctive, no, that's just not my thing at the moment? And I think the other aspect you mentioned, Mark, around, I never get angry. That's the key. I think that's the key. If something around meditation, yoga, tai chi, whatever, glamorizes the piece that is beyond the negative emotions, look again, test again. Just check in, because in my experience, even meditation, when I do not use it for bypassing, and I can use it for bypassing, yes, I can use everything for disembodying, but when I use it for embodiment, I also feel the trapped anger in my nervous system. I also feel the trapped charge. I also feel the past woundings. So this is very much about me. Yes, I'm pissed in this moment. Yes, I am afraid. And I'm not immediately jumping at my fear in terms of there is no reason to be afraid. So does it allow a safer space for the so-called negative emotions and the so-called problematic aspects of your everyday routine? Does it happen? Does it fit in your everyday routine? I think these testing questions are super useful tools in order to not bypass with yoga and meditation, but make them assist your healing journey, which is unique at the end of the day anyway, as well. So I think this is the anger part, the negative emotion part, the practicability in your everyday routine. These are so crucial aspects, I think.
Okay, just for fun, let's do a little test on this then. So everyone get a pen ready if you're out there listening to this. See how many spiritual wanker points you get. Okay.
Wow.
So we're gonna have up to 10 spiritual wanker points. All right. So a wanker, that's a jerk. It's an affectionate term in Australia and England. So it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you may be bypassing, because we can fool ourselves, me included, on this. So question number 1. Of our 10 points, okay, is do you find JP Spears funny and ultra spiritual? If you don't, if you think he's a bad person, that's a point. If you like JP Spears, then that's good. No point for you. That's your sense of humor test. Number 2, is anger allowed? If not, then that's a point, okay. Number 3, do you feel your body while doing the activity you do? All right, or is it somehow you're sort of floating above it? Yeah. I'm just making this up, by the way. This could all be, this is just a few random ones. Number 4, do you have to wear special clothes to do the thing that you do? So you have to sort of all dress in white or special martial arts clothes or something like that. Number 5, is it everyone in your friendship group from that practice, so that you're not around any sort of normal people? That would be a warning sign. Ilan, have you got any other point scorers here?
No, I can't make them up. Oh my God. I mean, of course, the pink yoga leggings, of course.
I like pink yoga leggings.
I love them. That's the thing. I'm the course score 10. I love them. Or pink and animate. I would die for that. That's my kind of enlightenment. What do you say?
What are the warning signs? Because we're all prone to this, right, at times, right? The bypassing. Like,
I mean,
what would be a little red flag?
There is something around making the world a better place by sending the good vibes around the globe. There is something around that. This is good for the rest, that I connect to them, or I'm of service to others by showing how good I am. There is something like that in the scene, at least in Berlin. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not true for other big cities, but there is something where I see it's almost addictive to do something good for others by being so blissful inside. And when I nowadays connect without disembodiment to others, I also cry and I also get fucking angry, because it's just so much suffering, and I'm just also so helpless and so desperate about that. So there is something of this embodiment versus disembodiment that I see in us showing up for this era, which is, I think, challenging for all of us.
Yeah, a few more, maybe. Like one would be like you've got sort of special words around it that you have to use, like a special language. Maybe the charismatic cult leader,
or maybe only Sanskrit.
Yeah, Sanskrit's more spiritual than English, obviously. It's not that Sanskrit's not useful and beautiful to study, but it's like it's no more spiritual than English or German or anything else. So some of those kind of warning signs that, like, hey, maybe something's up here, turning away from the sort of, I don't want to look at poor people.
Also, I think, Mark, is somebody in this tradition or direction over it or through or completely healed? That's also a tricky thing, because I never met a person that I felt truly, truly safe with, that at the same time said, I'm through. I have no pain body anymore.
Yeah, I'm saved. You can be
I'm
like
saved.
Enough work and enough all these things. So we're near the end, actually, Alan, believe it or not. We got a little bit of time.
Wow.
Time flies, huh? Time flies.
Yay.
When you're having fun. I would say being able to have fun around your practice and being able to laugh at yourself. The comment about ultra spiritual JP Spears was really like, if the sense of humor is lost, for me, that's often a sign.
Allow it to change, because you are doing it because it kind of it should change you. Allow it to change over time. Trust your nervous system. There shouldn't be anybody, I think, in your healing practice that you trust more than your own gut feeling. So this allowing the practice to transform over time and become your unique composition is something that is your birthright. It has to serve you, and you serving an ideal is a kind of trap of self-optimization that I know from myself, from perfectionism, maybe showing up in other things than yoga, sun salutation. However, it all comes down to self-hatred being my motivation instead of my falling in love again with love and with life and myself.
Yeah, the motivation's key, isn't it? You can have two people doing the same practice next to each other, and one's kind of caught in the bypassing and one isn't. Or the same person on 2 different days. And just to finish on the points, obviously, if you have a super spiritual voice or a special yoga voice, then that's definitely a point. But for me, I remember there was a shift one time. I forgot my Aikido clothes, and I'd gone to class, and the teacher said, "Okay, never mind, just train anyway." And I just trained in my jeans and a t-shirt. And there was this profound sense of it sort of became ordinary, and it became daily life. And it wasn't like a special thing that I had to have the clothes for or speak in a funny way for. It wasn't to get away from my life. And I remember even then, after I put the Aikido clothes back on, or I said the Japanese, or whatever the thing lined up in the rows, there was just a sort of sense I shifted through into a sort of ordinariness with it. And it's like it went boom down into me. Not just I was feeling the body, but it felt like part of me and part of my life, as opposed to this special place to get away from my life. And I've seen many people make that shift. It just happened for me. It was that time I forgot my outfit.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah. Today, I have to say that me working with people, and then I've been so desperately trapped in this good girl stuff around never being angry. To me, when I tapped into my anger, this was so worth it. And I met so many people in my work that were so grateful for me promoting anger in the so-called spiritual scene. So I'm just in this moment, I'm just outbursting also with gratitude, because us tapping back into the so-called negative emotion, this unleashes so much more of the superpowers of your nervous system and heals so much more of your wounding than the so-called pretty stuff. So yes, let's go with the fashion, and yes, let's enjoy the scene and belonging to a community, etc. And at the same time, it's never ever something that should take away your uniqueness and your freedom.
Yeah, and there's a great Japanese saying, which is "fish don't swim in water that's too pure." And there's something when people are on that kind of purity trip. And then some traditions actually have ways around this, like Tibetan traditions. They'll sort of say to the monks, "Drink this alcohol or eat this meat." There's ways they kind of try and stop that.
Break the taboo.
Yeah. Other people I see really get out of it by shifting practice. So someone whose bypassing is about sitting very still, they suddenly go dance and scream and get sweaty, and they kind of drop into their body in a new way. But equally, someone that dances and screams and gets sweaty and screams all the time, and that's all their emotions are, and then that's their bypass. They go sit with themselves, and there's like sitting in their juices and really having to go, "Oh fuck, there's my anger and my shame and my trauma, and oh my god," and sometimes that shift of practice I've seen can be very helpful for people as well. Or breaking the container slightly. Like for me, it was Aikido outfit. It might be like not doing that thing you always do in yoga. Offering
so many seemingly contradictory methods to your nervous system, because your body is so smart. It can combine something mindful with something chaotic, with something everyday routine, with something super special. And it's like you becoming your master creator of your healing path, it's a composition of so many different beautiful mosaic stones instead of one heavy pace that everybody else follows as well. So it's make it something like a masterpiece, something that's sparkling in your colors, something that's colorful, something that's playful, that's dancing.
For the final word from you, Ilan, I'm thinking of one story. So I was very, very into Aikido at one point. It's really my identity. I had all the outfit and all the words, and take it very, very seriously. And I was on the mat one time at this summer camp, and the Japanese teacher was there. I was being really respectful, and then this Irish guy was there, and I actually remember his name. I won't say it, but he came up to me, he put his arm around me, and said, "Fucking hell there, Mark, I'm really hungover today." They said, this teacher's full of shit. I tell you what, why don't we just sit in the corner and pretend we're practicing and not really practice? And I was just like, you can't do that on the mat. You know, I was sort of outraged by this kind of trend, swearing on the mat and, you know, disrespecting their teacher and being hungover. And then I just went, oh, this guy's more real than me. You know, I just had this sense of like, and after that, I would always grab him on the mat and he would like talk and swear during practice. And it was something just, and, you know, I'm not saying you have to swear, you have to whatever, be hungover, but it just felt real, this guy. And I, like, in my bones went, that's more spiritual than what I'm doing. This guy's for real. This guy's bringing it all with him. And I knew that intuitively, and I'd trained with him a lot after that. So if you're out there, slightly obese, random Irish Aikido guy, thank you very much. Final word, Ilan.
Yay, the sacredness of chaos, the sacredness of disturbance. I think that's such a wonderful story that you shared, Mark, because it's about disturbing the order when it has become a container for something unconscious or automatic, and then creating something new. So always, always, always allow life to be in charge, allow the disturbance, the chaos, the surprise, the newness, the freshness of something unexpected to be in charge. And I think this is what we can gain from trauma healing, and what we can gain from questioning when we are bypassing is flexibility and even enjoying the disturbance instead of feeling threatened by it.
Beautiful. And we're probably going to get complaints for this one, Ilan. So we have a special complaints email, which is steve@givenoshits.com. Okay, email steve@givenoshits.com.
Fright at me. Sorry, don't write at Steve. He didn't do anything. He's just such a wonderful tech host. Fright to me.
So Steve does.
Fright to me.
It's a fake email address. But you know, I'd say if people are out there getting super offended by a little swearing or a few funny stories, then maybe that's what we're talking about. So yeah, let go of that if you can. Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much. Of course, if people are interested, we have some things that can help with trauma healing, like Ilan Stefani's product, which I really, really like and our whole team like. There's lots of other good stuff out there, though. If you don't like what we do, there's all sorts of awesome stuff out there for healing trauma. So there is hope. If you are super spiritual, you can get past it. There is hope for everyone. And yeah, we wish you.
Wow.
Okay. So that's it for the watch party. Thank you to everyone who came, and thanks for your patience. I know for some of you there was a bit of a choppy video to this, so I've sent a message out to the organizing team, and hopefully I'll be able to get some information from you for you soon about a replay that you can watch that might be clearer. But in the meantime, please write down into the chat any key takeaways from today's session. And even if you don't want to write it down into the chat, write it for yourself, because then you can see what you liked and you can remind yourself later on how you might be able to apply some of the key takeaways to your life. I have been told definitely that the replays for these sessions will be available and that you'll be emailed after the live event. I don't know the details of that yet, but I'll see if I can get more clarity about that for all of you from the organizers. And I'll be back tomorrow hosting, so I'll give you that update when I can get that information. And yeah, remember that you can still invite friends and family, stop and think of someone who would benefit, and think about what might be the best way to tell them about it, and then go ahead and invite them, after you get out of the session. I put the links up before. I'll put them in again for you in the chat. This session was about learning about trauma in a specific context, in this case about emotional, how it could be used for emotional bypassing instead of actually helping you to recover from trauma. And as you saw, Mark mentioned that this is just one way to heal trauma. There are other methods. There's TRE, there's EMDR, there's somatic experiencing. So different things work for different people, and we encourage you to sort of explore and see what works for you. for those who are coaches and trainers, we have trauma as your superpower, which is very special. We don't have much time in this session left. Otherwise, I would definitely go ahead and give you a little bit of a preview of that. But hopefully we'll have some tomorrow, and I'll get a chance to do that with those who come to tomorrow's sessions. And if you're in the global South, or finances are a real issue for you, you can email us. You can email us at Agatha's account. I'll put that into the chat for y'all. So that's support at theembodimentunlimited.com. And I'll put that into the chat for you. And do note that the courses are only available to limited numbers, as we want to keep the group sessions small and intimate. But again, we don't want that to rush you into buying. Take a breath, feel your feet on the floor, make a clear decision about whether this is something that you want, and do it from a place of calm and not stress. So that's kind of my ending spiel for the day. I know you haven't really had much of an opportunity in this session because it's been a watch party to really interact with the teachers. But I hope that you can put some comments into the chat for anything that you'd like to share before I close out. And would love to see you tomorrow for tomorrow's sessions. So yeah, thank you so much again, and have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world. For me, it's late at night here in Chicago. So thank you.